Hi, Dan.
Hello, G.
How are you?
I'm good.
I've always been curious about how you got into theater and what your life has been like. When did you realize that you want to do theater and you want to get into acting? When was that first moment?
Um, there wasn't really a sort of eureka moment, right? To be honest,
Okay.
my mum and dad are divorced, but my dad used to be, but obviously before they got divorced, my dad was a director. So he was a director at the BBC, and but he was Welsh. So he worked for BBC Wales because he could speak Welsh, etc. So he was a director at BBC Wales.
Right.
So I guess it's always sort of been in the genes, I guess. But my mum and dad divorced when I was about 3, so it didn't really, unfortunately, didn't have any bearing on my career,
Right.
or offer me open any doors or anything like that. As kids, my brother and I did amateur dramatics. We had a local sort of repertory theatre where I lived, professional repertory theatre. So if they were doing a production that required children, they would then hold auditions in the local area,
Right.
So inevitably I would go up for the auditions, and I was lucky enough to get quite a few of them. So did quite a lot of sort of children sort of professional
Right.
acting. It was just what I was going to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
There wasn't. Unfortunately, I'd have liked there to have been a moment of, oh my goodness, this is it. This is what I must do. But there
Right.
wasn't. It was just always what I was going to do.
So why did you move from the UK to Singapore?
Okay, well, we came. My wife Jules and I. We weren't married then. We were, boyfriend and girlfriend. And she was an actress as well. So
Right.
we were both actors in the UK. And I think what a lot of sort of Singaporean actors don't realise is that we're very fortunate here in the amount of work there is, and the limited amount of actors there are. In the UK, yes, there's work. There's obviously it's a bigger country. There is more productions, but there are millions and millions and millions of actors. I mean,
Right.
everybody is an actor. So to work regularly is really, really hard. Um, and I think it doesn't just it's not just about talent, because there are many, many, many very talented people
Yeah.
who don't work. So it's not about you not necessarily being good enough. Okay, so it was difficult. So as a young actor, actors, my wife and I, one struggles. It's difficult to get regular work, and you spend a lot of time doing other jobs.
Right.
While we were doing these other jobs, we had a couple of friends who were at drama school with me, who had been in Singapore working and as teachers, and they came back to the UK as for a holiday, and they stayed with us in London, our flat in London, and they were having a great time, and they'd been on holiday, and they'd seen a bit of Asia, and they were really singing the praises of Singapore. So they sort of suggested that why don't we come for a couple of years, just for an adventure, really, just to see what it would be like. So my wife
When
and I
was
applied
this?
for.
What
Sorry,
year was it?
this was in '99, I think.
Oh my
Or
God.
it
Okay.
might have been. It was either '99 or it might have been Christmas '98. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
My wife would know. I don't remember these things. Um, and so we applied, and we had an interview for a teaching job in the UK. The interview was in the UK, but the teaching job was obviously in Singapore, and we got the job. So we packed up our flat and packed a couple of rucksacks and got on an aeroplane and came here. I mean, for the first 5 years, I didn't do any acting at all, nothing. I just sort of concentrated on the teaching. I concentrated on getting qualified as a teacher. We taught for 5 years. And then towards the end of that 5 years, there wasn't sort of any Caucasian actors. There didn't seem to be any Caucasian actors. You never saw them in theatre and things like that. Just never saw them. And then towards the end of that, a couple would sort of pop up here and there. And I was like, hey, wait a minute, I could do that. I want to do that. I got in touch with a few theatre companies, and had an audition. and got the job. And so the first play I did was a two-hander. It was a two-hander play, myself and Michael Corbidge, who was another actor at the time. And then that sort of snowballed. Once I got that, they then asked me to be in the next one, and so on and so forth.
Every actor, I believe, has certain roles that they really loved playing, certain roles that they really didn't like playing, certain roles that were very challenging. So can you tell us something about some of the roles and
Sure.
experiences? Yeah.
I mean, I think, again, you know, I feel very fortunate in the fact that the parts that I get to play here so far, touch wood, hopefully they will continue, have been really varied. As much as I'd like to be romantic lead, I'm never going to be romantic lead. That's not, you know, they're not the parts I get. I get the character parts,
Right.
Which is fine because they're fun. You know, they're fun parts to play. Okay, so sort of favourite parts. What have been my favourite parts? I mean, obviously, I played Couturian in the Pillowman, which we did for SRT originally.
Right.
So that was a brilliant part. I mean, I love playing that part, although it was immensely challenging and emotional. You know, the play itself is so well written. We were excellent actors, and so you're getting a lot from them. So that was great. I mean, it was such a wonderful part to play. I mean, I've been lucky. I mean, I very rarely dislike a part I've played. I mean, really. I mean, I've struggled in parts. When I played Iago in Othello. You know, I don't have the luxury to just be a full-time actor. You know, really. You know, one has to. I've got a family. I have to have a certain amount of money coming in, regular money, and all of that. So, so obviously, I have to teach and work around that, and which is great, and I love my teaching. But it also makes the acting side difficult sometimes, and it's hard work, and it means that your days are incredibly long, and you don't get a day off basically because you're either rehearsing or you're teaching.
Right.
And so when I was doing Iago, when I was doing in Othello, I again, absolutely brilliant part, but the whole sort of effort of doing it was really hard. It was such a challenge because I would teach in the mornings from 8:30, say, till 1 o'clock, and then I'd be rehearsing from 1 o'clock or 1:30 all the way through till 11 at night.
Wow.
Every day. And because obviously Iago is, I think it's the third biggest part in Shakespeare. So it's a huge part. So it's bigger than Othello. So you're there all the time. It's not like summer rehearsals, oh, you're not called today. No, I'm called all the time. And then you've also got the fact that you're involved in a, over $1 million production. You can't mess up. You can't get it wrong. You can't be sick. Everybody is relying on you. There's no understudy. And so it became quite overwhelming, really, on occasions. And it's the only job that I've ever wanted to run away from. I just thought I'll just run away. I can't do it. I can't cope. I'll just leave. I'll just run off. Yeah. Obviously, I didn't. But it was incredibly stressful. And it was only, I think we did like 5 weeks. I think it was like a 5-week run, something like that. Right. And it was only probably by week 3 where I sort of went, oh, okay, I can do this. I'm okay. I'm doing an all right job. I'm not going to mess it up. I'm not going to have a nervous breakdown. Okay, right. It's fine. That I could then begin to enjoy it, which was a shame. I would love to do it again. I'd love to play the part again because I would be so much better now.
Do you ever, carry the emotion with you back home after a rehearsal or after a show?
I would probably say no. My wife would disagree.
Okay.
I did a play called Popcorn by Ben Elton, and I played a serial killer, basically. For the part, I was, it was like Southern American, so he was a real like hick, white trash, and I was covered in tattoos. I had all these tattoos on me, which were all done in henna, so that they lasted for quite a long time. Wow. So I had all these like really quite aggressive, not very nice tattoos, and obviously I had them normally in real life, obviously during the rehearsals and things. And so walking around, it was interesting to see how people approached you and sort of dealt with you slightly differently than what you're used to, because suddenly you've got all this stuff on you, and my wife used to say that when I would come home from rehearsals, I'd still be a bit more not my nice, lovely, normal self. You know what I mean? I'd be perhaps a little bit more aggressive or a bit more sort of argumentative or whatever it might be.
Right.
So I think it definitely rubs off on you.
Right.
And you know, I did a play called Blackbird, which was for SRT, which was a story of basically I was a paedophile, basically a convicted paedophile who meets his victim again 15 years after the event. So a very harrowing, I mean, it's a very, very harrowing play anyway, very, very difficult emotionally, but a very unpleasant subject and a very unpleasant play, really. I mean, brilliant part. I mean, I really wanted the part, but actually playing it was really not very nice at all, you know, and it sort of left you with a, you know, not very nice taste in your mouth sort of thing. You know, you just sort of, you know, it's not very nice,
right?
You know, because obviously you have to, whatever your opinions are of, you know, pedophilia and all of that, of course, you know, I have to see it from the character's point of view. The character doesn't think that he's a bad person, doesn't think he's done anything bad, doesn't think he's wrong to continue to do it, or, you know, with other people and things like that. So obviously I have to find within myself that understanding and comfort and being able to connect with that, you know, and sort of convince myself that it's fine, you know, it was fine, when obviously it's abhorrent and of course it isn't fine. So I think in doing that, it just makes you feel a bit sick, really, you know. So that was unpleasant.
How did directing happen for you? So you've directed a lot of plays in Singapore, right? So when was that first time you directed?
I'm now going, is it? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, so it sort of happened through SRT, obviously, and working with the Young Company. So the Young Company, which is the SRT sort of youth training program. So it's like a part-time training program for young people, really.
Yeah.
So they employed me as the teacher to come in and run it, which was excellent. And you know, I'm still running it 10 years later. I love it. It's really, really, really good fun. But I obviously then meant I had to choose a play, and then I had to obviously direct it. So the first one we did was The Crucible, by Arthur Miller. So I chose it because I think obviously it's a fantastic script. So that was the first production I directed. It was great, actually. I loved it. I really, really loved it. I enjoyed the fact that I had control, I guess, over sort of everything, you know, and you know, it was sort of it's down to me and my ideas and my creativity, because I think really for some plays when you're directing, you have the opportunity to be far more creative perhaps than you do when you're the actor. You know, because if I'm employed as an actor, generally I'm given the script. I have a director who works with me. Yes, I have my input, but it's not going to vary very much really from the script and from the director's vision. Whereas when I'm directing, I can go, okay, all right, wow, okay, what can we do here to make this interesting and make it exciting, or make it the sort of theatre that I would want to see, that would keep me interested, or if I was an actor, I would like to act it. Yeah.
But you didn't direct anything before that.
No.
So it was, you know, your first opportunity was in the professional front.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
A lot of pressure for you. Yeah,
I mean, it was a lot of pressure, and I still find it pressurizing when I direct now. It's still, I mean, not always. It depends on the production, but I mean, in some ways, it's more stressful than acting. You know, I mean, I've been acting for years, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I'm fairly comfortable, and although I can get stressed by a particular role, the actual acting side of it doesn't generally stress me out. Whereas directing tends to stress me out.
I agree.
You know? Yeah. Because you know, you've got to produce something, right? You've got to get something, and at the end of the day, if it's crap, it's your fault, right? It's down to you. It's your responsibility to make sure that you bring everybody together, and you've got you know, that whole sort of managing people, and you know, I love drawing out performances from people, but you've still got to, you know, manage personalities and make sure everyone gets on, and make sure that they're all have confidence in what you're doing as the director, and the vision and all that sort of stuff. Plus, you're then working with all the other creatives, which again, it can be difficult. If you're not on the same page, then it's an absolute nightmare, and I've been in situations when we just haven't been on the same page. And it's very difficult because ultimately you've got to go, no, I don't want you to do that. Don't do that. I want you to do what I want you to do because my idea is better than yours, which is difficult because obviously you're dealing with creative people. So you have to do it in a nice way, but it can be difficult. There's a pressure.
Dan, you've done a lot of web series, films over here in Singapore, and you were also part of Crazy Rich Asians, which I think everyone was super excited about. So when did you get to know that you were selected for Crazy Rich Asians?
I mean, for Crazy Rich Asians, my agent put me up for an audition. So originally, for some ridiculous reason, in the scene that I'm in, there's obviously my little scene. It's the hotel manager, and then there's the guy who owns the hotel, the lord, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so originally they put me up for the lord, right? Who's about 80, right, or something. You know what I mean? So anyway, and obviously I didn't know that, so I'll go along to the casting. Right. So I go along to the casting, and then I'm given the scripts, and I'm like, well, I know I look old, but I mean I don't look that old. So anyway, I went in and I did my audition and read for it, and then the casting lady said, well, look, why don't you read for this other part, which is, was Reginald Ormsby, who was the hotel manager. Why don't you read for this? So I went outside, looked at the scripts and came in and read that. And I was like, okay, this is far more appropriate for me, age-wise and all of that. So yes, so I read that, short and sweet. It wasn't a long audition or anything. Obviously they video you and then off it goes to whoever. And then they just contacted Fly and yes, so I got it. So it was Fly Entertainment, yeah. So that's who I'm represented by. But it was great. It was lots of fun. I mean, mine, it's a tiny little, cough and a spit of a part. I mean, there's nothing to it really. But it was 3 days and it was good fun, and it was nice to be on set and nice to be in something that, has gone all the way around the world, really.
I would also like you to talk about the film acting and theater acting aspect, because many actors struggle with that.
I think it's a very difficult thing, to be honest with you. I think it's one of those things, and I'm still coming to grips with it, and I think it's something that comes with experience, really, I think. I mean, obviously, one can say the main difference is obviously theatre is bigger than screen acting. I mean, personally, I think it's something that one sort of learns as you're going along, and I think the only way you do that is by watching yourself, really, and being confident in what you do. When I first sort of started doing a little bit of TV and screen, having done loads and loads of theatre, you sort of go into it going, oh my God, I'm going to be really over the top, and no one's going to believe me, and I've got to really work really hard at not doing anything and toning it down, and then which you do, and then sometimes that works, and sometimes it just means you're not doing anything at all, and it comes across as nothing, right? Mm. So as I've done more of it, and I guess the more that you do, you sort of go, oh, okay, maybe I'm okay at this because people are still giving me jobs, people are still employing me, so maybe I'm doing okay. Right. Your confidence you become a little bit more confident with it. I think you begin to trust that you can actually approach them in a very, very similar way. Just being aware that you need to be stiller, one needs to be less animated. That doesn't mean that you don't do anything, that you don't do anything. Everything is still going on. You can still play a character. You can still emote. You can still express, but you're doing it in a much more subtle, controlled and contained way, I think. But it is, I still worry about it. It still concerns me, I mean, I'm very comfortable, as I said before, I'm very comfortable in theatre because I've done so much of it. I'm becoming more comfortable on screen and with filming, but nowhere near as comfortable as I am in theatre. I still have to, okay, don't panic,
Yeah, I really enjoy talking to you always, and it's been such a pleasure that you've come and you're talking to me. So thank you so much, Dan.
Ah, thanks, G. Thanks for asking. Always a pleasure to see your lovely smiling face.